Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly of this little guy for you. This is the Spyderco Stovepipe. Um, wow. This is a weird freaking knife, right? But immediately, it looks pretty straightforward to take apart because there is a screw here. There's a screw here. It looks like the pivot's got a collar. I don't know whether it's loose or not, but either way, we'll find it out. And by the way, although normally you can check nickshabazz.com/tools to check out all the tools I'm using, today I'm using a set of full-size drivers from Weha. This is in something that they're planning to release here soon. And so I figured I would check that. I mean, the drivers have been out forever, but I'm just checking these guys out for the purposes of knife disassembly to let you know what's going on there. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking it apart so far. It looks like we've got, and by the way, centering was just fine as it stood. It's a Tai Chung knife. It's right where it needs to be. What we see here is a sort of unusual pivot here, as well as a pivot collar. We see that there was some white thread locker on there, but this is the kind that they use at Tai Chung from Spyderco, which is historically pretty calm, kind stuff relative to some of the other thread lockers out there in the world. This is acting very strangely, but I think it's just more the thread locker, which tends to be a very gummy sort of feeling. Yeah, okay, it was just well thread locked shut. So we have our two screws out here, and now the knife should more or less disassemble itself. And sure enough, it did. And so what we're going to see here is, construction-wise, we're very straightforward, right? We have ourselves a blade. What a shock, right? We have ourselves a pair of phosphor bronze washers. We have a backspacer with a couple of stabilizing pins in there, which is always a nice thing to see, right? Those little stabilizing pins don't seem like they make a lot of difference, but they kind of do. They tend to lend a feeling of solidity to the whole affair, which I appreciate. I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol here and start cleaning off the blade. And what we're going to see here is there is some gunktion up on this blade. This is factory fresh, by the way. This was shipped directly to me from Spyderco. I'm actually kind of excited because this is the first actual new release from Spyderco in the better part of a year and change, right? Spyderco has put out some new things, but they've all been variants of existing things, or in one case, the Phoenix, which was a reissue of an old Spyderco. So they've not done anything new for a long time, or at least new that I was particularly interested in. And so seeing this on the table is just like, oh yeah, I remember back when this used to be a thing, right? And that's kind of nice, right? And in a lot of ways, this is a very strange knife. Well, in pretty much every way, right? You look at it and it's like, dude, this is a strange knife. But at the same time, the big question for me with this is, yeah, it's weird. That's beyond doubt. But is it weird and compelling? Is it weird and interesting? Is it the kind of weird that I want to recommend, or is it just weird for the sake of weird? In a lot of ways, construction-wise, this sort of reminds me a lot of the Spyderco Techno, and size-wise as well. I mean, the blade length on this guy is, not that big, right? Sharpened length, we're looking at, 2.6 some odd and 2.7. Not a particularly large piece, but we are in 20 CV here. And that's nice to see. And the overall, I mean, it's kind of got that tanky, overbuilt feeling to it in a lot of ways. So this right here, oh, looks like the pivot collar came out. Fine by me. Clean off the bottom of it. Actually, while I'm in here, I'll go ahead and clean off the this space here. One thing that is worth noting, by the way, is that the pivot collar on this side actually serves as an over-travel stop. You can see here that it hangs out slightly over the over this area, and the lock bar has a little area that will catch on it, basically, so I can't overpress the lock bar, which is a nice detail, right? But I need to make sure that as I'm reinstalling the pivot here, that I'm doing so both to a clean area, that way it doesn't, later whatever gunk is in there break down and the whole knife gets loose. But I also want to make sure that I am doing so with this D-shape, because the pivot itself here is D-shaped. I want to make sure that that is facing the correct direction, and that direction is, well, this way. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in place. And rotate, there we go. And we're in. The backspacer is currently trying to come out of the knife, and that's fine if it insists. I'd rather it not. But there we are. I'm going to use some knife pivot lube on this guy. Phosphor bronze washer actions, in my experience, have been very well served by KPL. Perhaps it's just got a slightly different viscosity. I'm not going to say higher or lower or not, because I don't have, the testing ability to do so, but it seems to work very well for phosphor bronze washer knives like this one. And I think, looking forward to seeing how this guy feels once it's all cleaned out. I'm also going to go on ahead and put a little bit of the lubrication here in the detent ball hole. That was maybe a little bit much, but it's a small detent ball hole. And what that's going to do is just lubricate the opening and closing action of the knife. And I had already... Did I put some... Well, here, I've got about 1 billion tons of lubrication here. I'm just going to go ahead and put some on the inside of the blade. And I'm seeing actually a little bit of gunk in there, so I'm just going to clean that out real quick and then apply some lubrication. Is this the end of the world? No, the knife would function fine even without this change or even without this cleaning. The knife was functioning fine before, but at the same time, never hurts, sometimes helps. That was a little much. I seem to be very generous with the KPL here today. Here today, he says, like that's not a thing always. Anyways, so now I got to put this guy the last bit of the way back together, and that's going to be pretty straightforward. The thing is, in order to get this, in order to get the stop pin seated into this hole here, I am going to need to press down the lock bar here. So what I want to do is get everything kind of roughly aligned, and the reason for that, of course, is that with the knife fully, with the lock bar fully extended, the knife isn't going to be able to, like it's going to push on the stop pin too far. And so just a little tiny bit of pressure here on the lock bar is enough to allow me to get my finger through there, or to get my finger to push the pivot the rest of the way through there, and then we're golden. The back of this, by the way, does not sit flush. That is a design choice. I'm not 100% sure I like that design choice, but it is a choice that is made. So don't attribute that to me, of course. That would be one heck of a screw-up in disassembly. I'm going to use some blue thread locker here. A little bit of blue Loctite on a stick. And by the way, I think I already plugged nickshabazz.com/tools. But, yeah, in case I didn't, that's where that's at. These long drivers are very long, right? So, not 100% sure they make a lot of sense in the knife disassembly realm. But, hey, whatever. So, going ahead and tighten that down. And I'm only lightly tightening that at the moment. Then I'll switch to the T8. That's, by the way, a 10 pivot T8 back screw here. Put a little bit of thread lock on there. And back it up just a little bit to make sure I'm not cross-threaded. Beautiful. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten that on down. Okay, I appear to have over-tightened it already. So, let me... That's tight. Now let me loosen this pivot just a little touch here. See where we're at. Yeah, that's a little too tight. I'm just gauging that by the amount of friction here. There we go. No blade play. The action is very smooth. I'm going to try and loosen the back piece here now that I got the pivot completely dialed in. Yeah, that released a little tension on the blade. Dead centered. And indeed, the knife is smoother than it was before. That's not something I can show you on the camera, of course, but it just is. Not that it was unsmooth previously, but now it's really good. So we're good to go here. Everything is back to centered. The action is absolutely beautiful. There is no vertical or horizontal blade play, and yeah, we're all set. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting. And if you, well, if you didn't care for it, you can put it in your stovepipe and smoke it. Don't. That's smoking's bad, kids. Anyways, moving on. I hope this has been interesting to you. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.